Bitcoin is a competitor to gold and not USD. And this is huge. Michael Saylor is thinking that Bitcoin is going to reach above 10 million by 2045.
Do you think people should still be investing in Bitcoin now, Mike? You know, how much Bitcoin have you got?
That's a very good question. I didn't have enough cash as well. So at this stage, I had a flight late evening. I said, I'll go back to the airport because I cannot even buy coffee at this stage. It was awful experience.
What's to say that Bitcoin is the coin? You know, MySpace used to be the social media platform, right? And then Facebook came along and killed it.
Yeah.
So what's to say that Bitcoin won't just die?
So now what's the problem there? The problem is the following. The first is hacking, right? So Bitcoin and gold is not a zero-sum game. I think there is place for both of it. If you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together.
Well, Lisa, thanks for joining me today on the Financial Planner Live podcast. Shaz has obviously introduced you to me as an international lady of digital assets, cruising around the world, speaking at lots of events about your expertise in digital assets. So there's been a lot of talk about Bitcoin lately. So I thought, do you know what? I know nothing about Bitcoin. And I bought some Dogecoin once.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, happy for you.
First off, what do you think about Dogecoin? Is that going to the moon? Should I hold, as they tell me to do?
I think you should hold, actually. I think after Trump's election, so many things has changed. It's really behind a big technological push because it's quite clear that Elon Musk is moving into tech revolution and he's going to do so for the next 4 years. And he's a big, big lover of Dogecoin. So I think you should keep it.
Yeah, right. I'll hold on to it then. I will not sell it.
Okay, don't sell now.
Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me today. I'll tell you what, first off, let's give us a bit of an introduction. Who are you? What do you do?
So I can call myself a digital asset expert because I'm working for Europe's largest digital asset manager already for 2 years. And basically my job is knocking the doors to family offices, independent asset managers, private banks, and convince them why they need to invest in digital assets, why Bitcoin can change performance in their portfolio and why is the future. So I have had a lot of fun in developing business in Italy, in Switzerland, and who knows, maybe in the future even Middle East. I feel like this is a place where crypto is booming.
Does it feel like it's continually getting more and more interesting, like more and more people are interested in it?
Yes, of course, because something big has happened in these days. So 3 things actually. The first, there is regulatory adoption. So can you imagine that Federal Reserve Chair Powell just said that Bitcoin is a competitor to gold and not USD. And this is huge. Second, Trump is a crypto friend, as I said, right? And he is about nominating Paul Atkins as the next SEC chair, which is again massive because one of the problems we have had so far is challenges with regulation. Obviously, it's a risky asset, it's new, so there is a lot of regulation adoptions that need to happen. And because there is going to be somebody very friendly in SEC, which is massive in US right now, to get approved all the ETFs in crypto, it's going to be huge impact. And last but not least, there is ETF Revolution right now as well. So since there is ETF in Bitcoin, we have seen a flow of 32 billion. And also Ethereum has been around 900 million. And Fed has been cutting interest rates. And probably it's going to keep cutting. And for digital asset like Bitcoin, it's a great news because lower interest rate, more investment in a risk asset like Bitcoin.
Oh, fantastic. Have you always been into digital assets? Is that something you...
No. I have started my career in wealth management, so very traditional. I started in Deutsche Bank, in Geneva, and I pretty much liked it, but it's very old school. And I really pretty much enjoyed, but I feel like for my generation, you want to like still be in finance, but probably get into more revolutionary asset like Bitcoin. And when I heard that I had the opportunity to join a company that it's making a big impact in the traditional financial services like private banks and so on, I understood this is mine. I wanted to add value to investors by giving them access to something that is, in my opinion, gonna truly change the future rather than, just sell like typical asset classes like funds, stocks, mutual funds, and so on. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So, you can't move at the moment for news articles about Bitcoin and it smashing past the 100K mark.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
It had to happen. I honestly didn't expect it will have happened so fast, but after Trump's election, it has been so clear how it's going to be crypto friendly. So just to tell you one thing, Senator Lamis has proposed a Bitcoin bill, which she's planning basically to buy 1 million Bitcoins as a reserve, strategic reserve for US in the next 5 years. This is massive. And also, what is interesting, in US, there are 13F filings. So basically, it's a report that institutional investors have to do when they hold more than 100 million assets under management. And it looks like only 20% of institutional have invested so far. So 80% it's retail. So retails are dominating still the market. And I just let you imagine that if we are going to have all this institutional investment in the future, it's going to be a massive impact on the price.
Very interesting. So what do you think is sort of driving the price at the moment? Just the election? Do you think that's just it? Or what else do you think has been driving it up past 100?
Powell's definitely affirmations that Bitcoin is a competitor to gold and not USD. That has been massive. Secondly, definitely Trump has been impacting it. As I said, the flows in US are very positive, and I think little by little institutional investors coming out and saying, hey, from now on, we're gonna include from 1 to 5% in a portfolio. It's impacting as well. Indeed, I am constantly talking to institutional investors, and I'm seeing little by little they are keen to include even a small percentage of digital assets in a portfolio, like let's say 60-40, and they're understanding the impact. And yes, it's a volatile asset, true, but if you rebalance it every quarter, for instance, then your returns are gonna increase, let's say by 50%, your Sharpe ratio doubles, volatility and drawdowns are increasing by 100 basis points. That's not a lot. Of course, if you don't rebalance this asset class and you just let it drift in your portfolio, yes, you're going to see a lot of volatility. Yes, you're going to see a drawdown, and maybe the Sharpe ratio is not going to be so great.
Okay, interesting. And what do you think the ideal percentage of Bitcoin should be in a portfolio then?
The ideal percentage is 4%. And as I said, it's create only positive impact to a portfolio because like it's small percentage. If you rebalance it regularly, as I said, volatility and drawdown are in check, and it makes sense,
Okay. So comparison to gold, Bitcoin to gold, how do you compare that?
That's a very interesting question, Sam. So obviously what is happening right now is that after this affirmation from Powell that, Bitcoin is competing to gold, people are realizing that it's a great store of value, also because it has very interesting properties. Let's think about divisibility. So you can divide Bitcoin into smaller units called Satoshis. Okay, so you can do like this micro trading, for instance, but can you really divide gold? Because if you start to divide gold in pieces, what the impact is that it's losing value probably. Then there is another one, let's say like security. Bitcoin is securitized by decentralized network. Okay, so you can just access through a network to Bitcoin, and gold, it's only accessible through specific geographic areas. So it definitely has different properties. And also imagine if today you have to escape your country and you have gold. What do? Like, can you bring into luggage and just like go? No, it's hard. With Bitcoin, you can do this because you have it in your wallet. Bitcoin and gold is not a zero-sum game. I think there is place for both of it. Investors should invest in both of this. And you know what? My favorite quote is the following. If you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together.
I like it. So this institutional adoption, is it there yet?
So, yeah, that's another interesting question because, as I said, 13 filings, which again is a very important disclosure from 100 million asset allocation managers. And it's basically saying that only 20% in US are still there. However, it's definitely happening. So for instance, Wisconsin, which is the largest pension fund in US, they hold like more than 130 billions, has invested in ETFs. We are constantly hearing banks already offering their products and services to investors. We are seeing also corporate engagement. So actually Microsoft shareholders are going to decide if to put Bitcoin in their strategic reserve, in their balance sheet. That's huge. And think about MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy's CEO, Michael Saylor, has been buying Bitcoin all the time. Right now, he's holding 400,000 Bitcoins, which basically is equivalent to above 400 billion of value of Bitcoin. And he thinks that Bitcoin is going to reach 14 million by 2045. That's crazy.
So say that again.
Michael Saylor, CEO of MicroStrategy, is thinking that Bitcoin is going to reach above 10 million by 2045.
By 2045. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So you better invest in Bitcoin.
You say people really should. You think people should still be investing in Bitcoin now, like, you know?
Look, I understand that now 100K has been a milestone and people think there is, place into another correction. So it's going to go down again to 80, 70 and so on. But that's not the right thinking. The right thinking is to buy a bit of Bitcoin, hold it, or even do a cost dollar average. So basically every month you buy a bit of Bitcoin, you accumulate it, and it doesn't matter what is the price really, because it's gonna be like balancing off like in the future, right? So this is also a great strategy to keep volatility in place. So definitely buy Bitcoin, just, don't invest all your cash into it today. Every month you buy a piece of it and you just keep it in your portfolio and you're going to be happy.
How much Bitcoin have you got?
That's a very good question. Let's say, look, I have entered in the market in 2017, but that's what's not the time I have been in the industry yet. So obviously I was not an expert in the market, and I have done this mistake. When I joined Europe's largest digital asset management firm, I started to ask my colleagues what they are doing because Bitcoin was only 15,000 and they suggested to do cost dollar average. So every month when you get your salary, you just buy a piece of it, you keep it, no matter what the price. I haven't followed this advice. So I have been just, saving cash, and I wanted to make a huge investment all in once. So I'm going to disclose that I invested, let's say a lot, when it was 50K. But, now that it's 100K, I'm doubled. I'm happy. I mean, as an investor, I'm happy, right? So, it's an asset that exists since 2009. Only courageous investors could, know it. And today they are millionaires and maybe billionaires. And that's fine. I'm happy for them. I personally entered last year, and I'm happy I doubled.
So what do you think up against like the dollar, up against the pound? Is it as secure?
You lived in UK, right?
Yep.
I lived in Switzerland. We have had an amazing access to spend our money. So let's just say you have a card, you just go to the shop, you buy something, and it has been accessible, right? In Switzerland, currency has been appreciating all the time. Like right now, 1 Swiss franc, it's 1.06 euro. I'm so happy. I go shopping. It's against inflation. Now let's think about Lebanon. Because I have been in Lebanon myself, and one afternoon I had spare time, and I decided to go in the center of the city. I found a shop, I found a beautiful dress, and I saw this was a perfect dress for a wedding I had in 2 weeks, and I decided to buy it. So I go to pay, and I take my MasterCard out, my Visa out, my Amex out, and the lady looks at me and said she cannot accept it because they cannot accept payment in a foreign currency. So Sam, what do you do at this stage? You take your card, you go to an ATM, you just withdraw money. I go and I could not withdraw them because I could only withdraw $100 during my travel, and of course I reached it the day before. I didn't have enough cash as well. So at this stage, I had a flight late evening. I said, I'll go back to the airport because I cannot even buy a coffee at this stage. It was awful experience. But at the same time, it made me realize that, we are taking for granted how much easy access we have to traditional payment services, to our currencies. But now let's think about Lebanon again. Right now there is a war, but even still there is a hyperinflation. There is a devaluation of a currency. There is economical and political crisis. People cannot trust their currency, right? And Bitcoin, in this sense, can save their lives because it protects you from devaluation, from hyperinflation. You don't need to have bank as your custodian. You can do a self-custody. And that's why Bitcoin is all-time highest when you compare it to the Lebanon lira. And that's revolutionary. And also, I have read a Forbes article one day, and it was talking about this economist called George Haddad, and he's from Lebanon, but he has lived in Canada. So he really was not seeing the impact. And when he came back to Lebanon and he saw what is happening there, he understood that only people who held Bitcoin can really understand how is unstable a currency and how you cannot trust it, right? So look, Bitcoin can save lives, for sure.
So emerging markets then, you mentioned to me before about Nigeria and Argentina as well.
Yeah, same story. There is a lot of political instabilities. There is economic crisis. There is hyperinflation, devaluation of the currency. People need to use the Bitcoin because the currency worth nothing. They're just absolutely losing their wealth. So to protect against all these crises that they're having, they need to have digital assets in place, Bitcoin. So they're using basically Bitcoin for their daily lives.
You mentioned 10 million, right? By 2045?
Yeah, according to Michael Saylor.
Okay, cool. When do you think I think most people are just like, wow, that's incredible, right? If that actually happens. What about 1 million? When do you think that'll be? Has anyone spoken on that?
Yeah, a lot of people wants to know this target, and I do think it's gonna happen. I do think when, of course, I don't know. Otherwise, I will be now in pension, retired, just living on my Bitcoin and putting a lot of leverage, right? So it's $1 million question, by the way, itself. But look, I think institutional engagement is the next. If we're seeing that all these giants, bank giants, all these pension funds are going to include even 1% of their AUMs in Bitcoin or digital assets, that's going to be a huge impact on the price. Also remember, it's all about supply and demand, right? And in Bitcoin, the supply is very clear. It's 21 million. So it's limited, right? And when there's going to be a high demand coming from institution and the supply is fixed, of course, the price is going to increase. So I do see the target of 1 million, but definitely in a few years.
So you got Ethereum, right? Why wouldn't Ethereum just take over Bitcoin? Why, what's to say that Bitcoin is the coin? And MySpace used to be the social media platform, right? And then Facebook came along and killed it.
Yeah.
So what's to say that Bitcoin won't
Yeah,
just
so, Bitcoin is seen as the first, revolution in crypto. And obviously it has created more trust because if you think when it came out in 2009 after the 2008 crisis and only after as the crypto started to follow, but for different use cases. So definitely Bitcoin is going to always be like on top because there is more trust. There is, they're starting to use Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. They see it as a competitor to gold. Right now, they don't see Ethereum, Solana, Ripple there yet. Yes, they are very interesting cryptos. Finally, they're not even used anymore for speculation. For instance, Ethereum is used as a blockchain for smart contracts, which is, again, in my opinion, the next revolution. Solana is used for fast and cheap transactions. Ripple is used for solving issues in cross-border payments. So they all have different cases. But of course, they're not as Bitcoin yet, and they don't have this trust yet. And however, for example, we have seen approval from SEC about ETF in Ethereum. It's very positive right now. There have been more than 100 million inflows, and investors are starting to understand that the next one, they should get into Ethereum yet. But also Solana is getting there because 21 Shares, Vanek, Grayscale, Bitwise, they all have done right now an application to get approved as an ETF in Solana. And the next is going to be probably XRP, which is Ripple. And so, there's place for both. I just feel like investors are going to have an option. And I think investors love to have an option. And I always have recommended to diversify the portfolio. So I'm just happy for all these coins to fly.
I know somebody who had about 500K in their pension,
Ooh.
did this micro strategy, stuck it all in Bitcoin.
Yes.
And it's now like 2 million.
Good for him.
Yeah. But risky, right? Like, that's so risky.
Yeah.
Like, where does he get that confidence from to do that? Or is it just like a blind confidence? I don't know.
I just feel like people are starting to understand the properties of Bitcoin versus gold, for instance. They don't see it anymore as a speculation. They understand that they will need to use it. So, for instance, Lugano. Lugano is in Switzerland. It's becoming Europe crypto most friendly city in the world, and you can go to more than 100 shops to buy anything Bitcoin. And guess what? Even to McDonald's. So you can buy your cheeseburger using a Bitcoin. And now let's think about Tesla. You can buy Tesla using Bitcoin. And it's massive. This is where the confidence is coming from, because right now governments, corporates, institutions adopting it, and there is no way back.
What about as a haven for crime and people using it to embezzle money? And did you get a lot of those questions at all?
Yes, so there was time that definitely there was a lot of bad reputation for crypto because it has been used as a money laundry. But right now it's not anymore the case because blockchain and chains can be checked by, for example, companies like Chainlink, so they can basically see every transaction happening, and it's very hard right now to escape. And also, like in the past, it was also called like tax evasion and so on. Right now, you need to pay taxes, you need to be compliant. It's starting to be like a real asset class. So it's very, very hard right now to use it for money laundering or for like tax evasion.
If somebody's freaking out about the security around Bitcoin, right? They're like, okay, I'm going to buy some Bitcoin, but I'm really worried that someone's going to hack into it. Yeah, or they're going to steal it. You hear about people stealing money from people's wallets.
Yes, hacking.
Yeah, like how secure is that? And how what should people do to protect their
Great
assets?
question. So the most common way to invest in crypto, everybody knows that, it's an exchange. So think about Binance, Kraken, Coinbase, and that's where people went to buy Bitcoin. So now what's the problem there? The problem is the following. The first, it's hacking, right? So like somebody entering the exchange, they hack your account and they steal your money, right? Then at the stage you can say, okay, but I'm gonna do self-custody fine, do self-custody, but it's still very complicated operation. I don't know, some friends who lost Bitcoins, they don't remember passwords, they don't remember the accesses and so on. And then another problem of an exchange is that you cannot like diversify this asset class in a traditional portfolio because your money basically are going out from your bank accounts, they're going to an exchange. An exchange is not sometimes even regulated. So think about FTX. FTX bankrupt and people lost so much money. So another alternative is to buy an ETF today, ETF in US, or it's called exchange trade product in Europe. And why it's convenient? It's convenient because first of all, it's easy. You buy it as an Apple stock, basically. You have an IC number. Secondly, there is a custodian, right? So when you're buying basically an ETF or an ETP, there is an exchange between authorized participants, and Bitcoin is going like into a safe custody, which is independent, which is institutional regulated. Great. And then if by chance the company who issues this ETF or ETP bankrupt, there is an independent trustee that has the legal duty to sell the asset class in the market and to refund all investors by cash. So as you can hear, buying an ETF today is the most secure way. It's like buying a stock. You can put in your portfolio, you can keep it. The only difference from an exchange, it's not trading 24/7. It's trading from like the local market exchange.
Listen, thanks very much for giving us an overview of Bitcoin and what you're experiencing, what people you're working with are experiencing, just kind of giving us some education really and some insight into what's going on, because I've certainly learned a lot. Yeah. This is a careers-based podcast as well. Now, you have as well a career coaching business. I'm just interested. You know, I've spent 16 years in recruiting into financial planning businesses and built a recruitment company, sold it. Now I'm working within a financial planning business. Do you get approached a lot by people wanting to work in Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, whatever? Are they in that space in the digital asset world? Is there a big interest in that from youngsters?
Yeah, there is interest. There is interest, especially from young people. And unfortunately, they're struggling because obviously universities are not there yet to give like a super advanced digital asset course. So what's the best for them to do is to do some education on the side. But because most of them don't do it and they want like a fast way to enter institutional crypto, they think, oh, it's just crypto. I just can get in easily from my education and traditional background. No, you need to learn stuff. You need to understand the technology. It's almost like engineering approach. So definitely you need to invest in education, and you need to network, you need to understand it, you need to join some crypto events, which are, by the way, very open and friendly. So behind crypto, there is a great community of supporters, but you need to do the steps if you want to join a crypto company. It cannot be just a wish.
All right, okay. So one bit of advice would you give somebody then? Just the one takeaway if they're interested in getting into a career within crypto?
Yeah, just educate yourself. For instance, when I joined wealth management, I knew that I had to be an expert in markets. So every morning I was waking up, I was reading Financial Times, New York Times, and I was trying to understand what is going on in the market because I need to understand how to advise an investor, right? So if you want to join crypto, you need to be able to talk about crypto. You need to be able to understand the technology behind, how the market is moving. So definitely learn, educate yourself, take extra time, network with people, and you're gonna get there.
Fantastic. And what have you been up to in the UAE then, over in Dubai?
Yeah, so very interesting. There have been a few conferences. There is Finance Week going on, and yeah, so many interesting investors, so many interesting financial players are here, and it's interesting to see what is happening because when I meet them, I understand what asset class they interested the most, what is driving them, and that's a great approach then to tailor-made, your meetings in the future and hopefully let them get interest in digital assets. As well, Formula One was not bad. Not bad. It's always like a great occasion to be in the city.
Did you get to watch any of the Formula One?
Yes, I watched it, and I've been only seeing it in Monte Carlo. I think it's very different. Monte Carlo, it's smaller. It's a bit more prestigious, a bit like niche people. Abu Dhabi, it's more big. But we know that in Emirates, they like to make things big. So it was a bit of, flashy and show style, but why not? Like you need to adapt to every culture, right?
What do you think of Dubai then? Would you move here? Is it something, I've come from the UK. I've come to Dubai. We're an international financial planning business, Hoxton Wealth. That's who I now work for. And we recruit internationally. I mean, does Dubai interest you? Because a lot of people think about Dubai, don't they? Tax-free being one of the big attractions. But spending time here now, is it somewhere you think, oh, do you know what? I could live here. Or I could base myself here.
Well, I love Dubai. It's beautiful, beautiful city, beautiful people, a lot of technology advancement. And I've been thinking several times to move to Dubai. I just feel like in life you need to, take a challenge and become an expert in something. And I have chosen, to open doors about crypto in Italy and Switzerland because I have been very, in a friendly approach. I have done a lot of movements to get there, and I just want to finish my mission. And why not next Dubai?
Love it. Fantastic. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me today on the Financial Planner Life podcast, teaching me about crypto, Bitcoin, and I better go out and get some, and really, because it's going to hit 10 million. I don't want to be left behind.
Yes, absolutely. Buy some, and remember cost dollar average, small purchase every month, 4%, and you're going to be happy.
Happy days. Thanks so much. Cheers.
Cheers.